Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith, I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in the United Kingdom. And today I thought we'd go back to playing with the lovely Season of Chic bundle that's in the annual catalogue. And it uses this beautiful texture chic paper, which is 12 by 12 paper. I'm just going to 6 by 4 sample of each here. So you've got 6 designs, you get 2 sheets each, and you'll see on the front there you've got the most beautiful foiling on those, and lovely colours of sort of soft pinks and greens, with a little bit of sort of orangey mango melody thrown in. And say foiled on the one side, and then on the reverse you've got some lovely patterns. So you've got the flowers that echo the flowers in the paper. We've got some snowflakes, which we have a little bit of snow recently, but winter birthday that would be great. On the reverse of this one you've got some seashells, so if you're doing any scrapbooking or people with summer birthdays, that would be fabulous. Soft succulent and a bit of evening evergreen there, and a kind of a wood background. On this one we've got again lovely spring flowers, some mango melody and petal pink, and then on the last one we've got some lovely leaves instead of pinks, browns. So you know, Season of Chic, it really is an all season paper. So if you want it, get it now before it runs out with the with the annual catalogue changes. Lovely paper. And I say the Season of Chic stamp set covers all of your seasons. Some super sentiments, both thinking of you, thanks, love you, make each season of life even more beautiful. I mean, super sentiments. And then you've got sort of flowers, sort of spring flowers. You've got lovely leaves, shells. You've got a snowflake there. And then you have dies which coordinate. You've got this great texture piece here, which I'm going to be using. But you've got ones to cut out the snowflakes as well as detailed layers. So those are the seashells that I've used here that you can see, and those you've then got one that layers over the top of the main shell as well to give a bit more interest. You've got some little centres, so lots of options to vary it. So having done one with seashells, and so I've just done this sort of triple display fold card and just cut it at a slight angle, so it sort of, when it stands, you'll see there, you get this lovely kind of diorama effect almost. And I thought I'd work with some petal pink as well. So I'm first going to start off with my stamping and some die cutting. You're going to, I think these work best if you use the detail dies with multi-purpose adhesive sheets. So I've already got some on here. So here's a scrap piece I've got of petal pink, and it's one I'd already got some background on, but I'm actually going to just pop it along so those last bits won't actually be covered by the die, but that's okay because I'm going to put it on that back layer there. So that's my detail die. Then we want to do a little bit of stamping. So grab yourself a scrap piece of cardstock, and I've got my flower here with the detail as well, and I've got my 2 leaves. I've also got the thanks with the swoosh, and I thought I'd have a play with that as well. So because I'm going for petal pink, I'm going for a slightly deeper colour to layer on top of that, so I'm going to go for Calypso Coral, which I've got here, and as I said, I'm going to use some petal pink as well. So let's start off with the detailed stamp, and I'm just going to ink that up and stamp that detail down. Then I'm going to come in with my petal pink, and this one I haven't actually lined up in the same way I do normally. That'll go. So just rotate it and look through until you see it lines up. Sure it's there. Oh, it is. Yes, there you go. So I'm just lining up that slightly flatter edge, hovering over till I've got it lined up, and then stamp down. I'm just going to do another one of those as well. So I've got that slightly straighter edge at the bottom left, and I can come in with my with my background colour, like so. So there's a die that goes over those, and just pop that over there like so. Then I'm going to stamp my leaves. So I've got my background and my detail there. So I'm going to use the soft succulent that we've got with those, and I might even stamp them in some pinks as well. Let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to start off again with my detail here. So there's my detail, and then with the soft succulent I'm going to stamp off first and then again just line that up like so. And I'm just, what I generally do is I'm just lining at the bottom of that with the stem to give me a point of reference when I'm stamping. So now I'm going to add the die over the top of that. And again, if you just look through the little release hole and line that up at the bottom of the stem, that will just help keep it in place and line it up. So I'm lining at the bottom and then I can manipulate the top. Now what I want to do is clean those off. Just grab another scrap, basic white. So having cleaned those off, I'm actually going to see what a leaf looks like in Calypso Coral and Petal Pink. It's always nice to do something a little bit different. And because this is a lighter shade, I'm fine obviously just to stamp that down. Obviously you could stamp off your Calypso Coral if you wanted to as well. It's a way of getting a lighter shade. There we go, there's a couple of pretty leaves. I rather like those in those colours actually. And then what I'm going to do is stamp, this is my background panel. So this is 14 by 10. In terms of measurements, I'm going to work in centimetres. The inches for both UK and US cardstock will be further down the description bar below. So I'm just going to put my thanks in this top right hand corner and then add my swoosh over the top there. Then I'm going to come in around the edge with, I think, probably the Petal Pink rather than Calypso Coral. Yeah, so I'm just going to use the stuff, actually this texture stamp here, just so it creates just a pretty sort of effect. And that's where this stamp set is really useful for all sorts of occasions, because you can just add some, say, a bit of texture all the way around. It just softens those edges, and by turning your stamp as you go along you can get it sort of quite different effects as you go around. And then you can always come in actually to add those layers of texture with this stamp here for some other little bits. There we go. Yeah, just popping that there. Okay. So pop the ink pads away before I get myself into an inky mess. Okay, so that's going to go as our layer across the top corner. Next thing we want to do is some die cutting. So we've got our stamped images, and I'm also going to die cut some of the other layers as well. So I thought I'd create a layer to go over the flower, because we've stamped our flower, and here's one I did earlier, you can see here, but you can pop a layer over that if you want, and that will give a different effect again. I thought I'd use some of these pretty little detailed outline ones, and again, because they're quite detailed, I'm using my double-sided adhesive sheet on there as well, just to make sure that it stays in place. once we glue it down, rather than struggling to to get it to stick as well. So you can see I've already cut some layers of soft succulent. I'm going to cut another couple of detailed leaves here. So I've got this shorter one here and this one, and in fact I might actually cut one of each. I'm going to cut that detailed layer out of soft succulent, and I'm going to cut this one out of some evening evergreen. So again, just sticking with the colours that are really in that DSP, because they're going to work well together. So let's get those die cut, and I will be back in a moment. So now we've done all our die cutting, you'll see we've got some pieces here ready to go. So I'm just going to pop these out so that I can start creating our layers. So this one here, I'm just going to peel off. You see, as I peel it off, it takes most of those little pieces out with it. And if you end up with some stuck in, it doesn't matter. It's up to you entirely, but you can always, you can see, take them off with your finger. As I'm doing here, just pop some of those out, and the only thing I need to do is just make sure they're not sticking to the back, like so. And I'm just going to pop that layer on the edge there. So you can, if you get any stuck in as I've got there, you can always take your pick tool or a piercing tool, and if you just go into the edge of those, you'll be able to pick those out quite easily, as long as you haven't pressed down too hard. But sometimes it's quite nice to have those extra bits in as well. And then I've got a range of flowers, so you can see here some flowers and leaves. So we've got our different ones. Those are our Calypso coral that we did. I've got my detailed ones here as well. And I mentioned that one, so these will just lift up, she says. Take those ones out first. And this one's just going to be a little bit awkward, so I'm just going to take that layer off there, and you see you've got those pieces left. You could always paper piece those in. Personally, I don't. And then you're going to, that will layer then over this flower. So as I say, so you can see, you know, where I've stamped the Calypso coral, this just sort of, if you like, gives a different effect as well. So you've got this one where we've got stamping, this one where we've got the detailed layer, and then we've got another one somewhere. Yep, so we've got another one where we've got our two detailed flowers as well. So the next bit that we've got to do, I'm going to pop these to one side, so now we can create our layers in a moment. So these are all my pieces. So what we want to do is actually create our card base to go with these. So let's clear the decks. So this is going to be our piece for the back there. So I'm going to create my base in Petal Pink. I'm going to keep with those sort of subtler colours for the moment, and then I'll show you how to create the card base and how to get those curves on there as well. So to start off, you're going to need a piece of card. Just push those to one side. That is 10.5 by 24.5 centimetres. So I've cut that already. You can see here we're at 24.5 by 10.5 centimetres, and you're just going to score that at 14.5 centimetres. Make sure you move your cutting blade out of the way. At 17 centimetres, at 19.5 centimetres, and then at 22 centimetres. Like so. and it's as simple as that. So that's our card base. You're then going to want 2 layers. This one is 12 by 8 for the middle, and the front one is 9 by 9.5 by 5.5 centimetres. So the next bit is to actually cut our layers. So what we want to do is first of all cut at 2.5. So if we think that this is our card, and it's this bit here that we want to cut. We want to cut at 2.5 up to this 3rd score line. So I'm lining it up at 2.5, and coming up from the bottom where those score lines are, 1, 2, 3. Just lift it up. You can use your little line on the side there. Tuck that out of the way and cut a diagonal like so. Okay, so you're going to end up with this here, and then at 5 centimetres on this edge here you're going to cut to the 1st score line, which you probably can't quite see at the bottom there, so I'm just cutting at the very bottom up to the 1st score line, and I'll show you that. So there we go, so I've cut here to the 1st score line, and then we're going to cut that diagonal as well. So fold that out of the way and cut the diagonal. So you will end up with a piece of card that looks like this, so with some steps down. Okay, in fact I might have just gone, yeah, I've actually cut that. Should have been at 5.5 centimetres. So, but what you can do is just trim that piece of card down. So, I'm just going to cut that to 5 centimetres. Don't want to make another one because, you know, waste card. So it'll just change the effect very slightly for our card base. So it just gives a slightly bigger gap in the middle there. There we go. So there we go. That's how we're going to arrange our card. So the next thing we want to do is to actually create our curve. And this is as simple as you only need to do it once. Grab yourself a pencil, mark on the top here, and you're just going to carry on that curve down to the bottom. So again, about 2.5 centimetres. I'm just going to make a mark, and all I did was I just took my scissors and created my curve. And then the next thing you want to do is the same on your next one. So just mark where that's going to go. And again, about 1 inch, 2.5 centimetres up, thereabouts. And what I'm going to do now is use this as a sort of template to kind of get my curve. So this is my offcut, and I'm just going to pop that across. So think where that's going to be. So this is what we've cut off. Yeah, so this is where we're going to just have a similar curve. So I'm just going to line up where I've made my pencil marks, and then just cut slightly on the inside of those. And that way you'll get a couple of curves that look obviously as if they will match up. Okay. If you've got any cut lines that are sitting proud, just run your bone folder over those. And then you're going to do exactly the same with your pieces of DSP. So now we're ready to cut our DSP, and you want two pieces. You could use white if you wanted to stamp, or you could use DSP. So this middle layer is 11.5 by 7.5, and this front layer I'll obviously need to trim down slightly because on the one I've done, it now needs to be 4.5 by 9 centimetres. So whatever size you've made yours, you just need to trim accordingly, 0.5 centimetre, 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to take off that 0.5 centimetre on here. And again, on this, we're going to want to make sure that we want our curves to be the same. So all I'm doing is I'm just lining that up, and I'm going to just come in and cut from behind to get my layers. And again here, so I'm just lining it up. You can see in those top two corners. Have a look at the front. And you want it to actually line up actually on the edges. There we go, because you're going to want a border, so I might need to just retrim. So we just cut that curve, and now because we can move it down, we should get a nice border. So let's add some adhesive to that. I tend to use Tombow when I'm doing layers like this. Yeah, I'm just going to trim that one a little bit more. So I'm just making sure it's sort of nicely layered on the front there, and just trim that extra bit. So I've put it flush with those uncut pieces. Now you don't have to put a curve on this. If you wanted to do it just as a straight diagonal, you could do so. And that's the beauty of this this style of card. You can change the shape of these panels to suit whatever you want to do. Vary it accordingly, and you end up with cards that look quite different. So now I think we're ready to actually finish our construction. So I'm going to add our panel to the back there. Now again, if you didn't want to have your sort of sentiment exposed, or your whatever you've written on show, then you could always add a narrow panel here, or what I would probably do is pop a panel on the back there. You'll see I've just gone a little bit with my Tombow here, so I'm just going to scrape that away as much as possible with a scrap bit of card, and I can come in with my rubber eraser later. So there's my back layer. So this next layer is going to come onto this panel here. So I'm going to add my adhesive to that panel and just pop that in, and just make sure it lines up against that edge, and that you can still fold that piece over the front, and then do the same again on our very front panel. And all the time with these, because we're using both the front and the kind of reverse of where we've cut, you occasionally get some little raised edges. So if you want to get rid of those, just run your bone folder over and you'll find those will just smooth out. There we go. So that now we can do the fun bit, which is to create our panels. So I think I can pop a leaf here. I'm actually going to stick with those rather pretty leaves. So I'm going to pop a leaf on the inside. So open it out flat. I'm going to pop my leaf in there. I'm going to keep these middle layers fairly flat, and that's so that it doesn't add any more to the bulk that's there on the card. So we can just add that leaf in there. I'm going to add another one here. So just be careful where you add your adhesive if you want that to peek over the top, because what you don't want it to do is stick to a layer behind. I'm going to add my leaf there, and I want to add a flower here. So I'm just going to shape that very slightly with my fingers and grab my dimensionals. If you struggle with dexterity, just grab your bone folder if you want a smoother flower, And by stretching it in a couple of directions, you'll get a little bit more shape to it. Just putting a single dimensional on the back there to give us a little interest. And it allows me to pop things behind the edges of those as well. So I'm just going to pop those flowers in there as well. Like so. I'm going to pop a couple of flowers in there. So one in the background, I'm just going to glue, as I said, I'm going to glue flat. And I want these to kind of be towards that top edge because I'd like them to be visible when we sort of close the card. So we're kind of creating our layer there. So again, just... Now this one, because it's on the front, I'm just going to add a dimensional. I've got another die cut here. Which we can add in. So. And then add another one in the back here. So there we have our layered display card. This one using the floral elements from Texture Chic. This one using the seaside ones. As you can see here, look quite different using the same stamp set and same DSP. Change the colours, change the dies, and you've got something quite different. I hope you enjoy making it. It's great fun to make some slightly different fun fold cards, and these ones just look so pretty when they're stood up on someone's mantelpiece or mantelpiece. I don't think people have really as much, so probably on their windowsill. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'd love it if you would subscribe to me, then and click the notification button so that you know when I'm going to when I've posted another video, and let me know which one you are. Are you Team So Saffron or Team Petal Pink? Take care, come back and see me again soon, and if you choose me as your demonstrator when you shop with Stampin' Up, I would really appreciate it because I can send you a thank you and a little gift the following month. Take care now, bye!